Mistakes were made. They were monitoring this guy for an hour beforehand. Yeah. No one told you not to take the stage?
No, nobody mentioned it. Nobody said there was a problem. And I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, something. Nobody said, I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Because people saw that he was on the roof. I mean, you had Trumpers screaming. The woman in the red shirt, she was screaming, there's a man on the roof. And then other people said, there's a man on the roof who's got a gun. And that was quite a bit before I walked onto the stage. So you would have thought somebody would have done something about it.
And ever since that day, we, the American people, have just been looking for the truth. That's all we want. And somebody has to be held accountable. Kimberly Cheatle, Secret Service Director, has just arrived at Capitol Hill this morning to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee regarding the assassination attempt on President Trump. And everybody's calling for her resignation, saying that she needs to resign. She previously stated that she has no plans to do so, and she's going to continue to do what she does. But this is her arriving in Capitol Hill right now.
You know, Joe Biden had just concerns that she was up to this.
Okay, we are watching Kimberly Cheatle arrive on Capitol Hill. A much different scene from Wisconsin last week when
she was being chased.
Yeah, Republican senators chasing down the hallway.
What's sad is they failed the American people and they failed themselves because they wanted this to happen. In my humble opinion, they, just to be vaguely defined right now, let's just say those behind the curtain, okay? And they failed. So they failed at that, and on top of that, bro, they failed the American people. And how do you not resign after making a statement like this?
Good morning, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Reskin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Cheatle, and I am the Director of the United States Secret Service. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. I would be remiss if I did not also extend my condolences on the passing of your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Ms. Jackson Lee was always engaged in the oversight of the Secret Service, and her passing is a great loss to this body. The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency.
I'm just saying, after a statement like that, I mean, that's case closed right there. You know what I'm saying? She said it herself. Look, we failed. Okay, cool, man. Let me read a few comments before we get to this next video. We are not going to get answers from her. And that's exactly what you're about to see in this next clip for sure. What a joke. She's not going to answer anything. Resign and reveal the deep state plot you were part of to unalive President Trump. Reading. Can they talk? Somebody said, she just said that she is not going to get into specifics on that day. Wow. U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle she's refusing currently to answer any questions from Chairman Comer's about securing the roof of the building where President Trump's attempted assassin initiated the attack at the Butler rally.
The Secret Service has an annual budget of around $3.1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
You can't, okay. Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Okay. Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
One of the things that you said, I believe, in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal, and do you fear that that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
So I appreciate you asking me that question, Chairman. I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service in general, not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are
still
providing
looking
overwatch,
into responsibilities. What? You should know every detail,
not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are providing overwatch, whether that be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer, but can you answer this? Do you know, I'm not asking yes or no, but do you know if the shooter used a drone before the shooting?
That information has been passed to us from the FBI.
Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Okay. Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
And it only gets worse, you guys. Requests were denied, or what resources were denied that Donald Trump's team was, inquiring about. What role does she play into either allowing or denying?
And
what does some requests mean? How many times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What did they ask for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
so again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are times—
You didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing, knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that risk.
But that's not what he said.
Why can't people just be honest, man? Be intellectually honest as well. Just be honest. Please, pretty please.
They were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is that there are times
right.
we can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service asset or resource. We can fill that request with locally available assets.
You spoke to anyone at the White House since?
And of course, Jim Jordan went on to grill this woman. I mean, rightfully so. When somebody's not answering basic questions, that should raise an eyebrow and also tell you that there's some level of foul play there. And for her to sit here and act like she wasn't briefed or she wasn't prepped before she came there, it just reeks of something that's suspicious. Now we have a fan, somebody who's not a fan, but we have an angle from somebody who's recording it from their phone, watching it on TV, and it says Jim Jordan just caught her lying about denying requests from Donald Trump's campaign. And obviously, we just seen him grill him.
Assets.
You spoke to anyone at the White House since July 13th?
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk to?
I have briefed the president and the vice president.
Talked to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talked to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people.
Exactly.
I understand this is an ongoing investigation. And
Who's all doing the investigating at Secret Service? I know the Inspector General, but is there also an internal investigation in addition to the Inspector General?
We are conducting a mission assurance investigation internally, yes.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy who's going to be the next president. Looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be quiet.
You might want to, but you haven't answered. I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member,
I got a lot of respect for Jim Jordan, man. True patriot, somebody who's gonna make sure that he gets to the heart of it all. Y'all see what happened with Fannie Willis. Anyhow, I respect a lot of I respect the fact that he asked all of the hard questions. He don't try to sugarcoat it. He don't try to, Jim just come out swinging, man, and that was good. I think it was a job well done. Now this woman didn't or can't, either or works, answer a single question. Now, in my opinion, this is more than embarrassing, and it just oozes you need to resign.
Ubiquity of weapons, guns in America, especially assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons, that's helped your job and the mission of your agencies, right? It's made it less complicated. Isn't that true?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Real simple. More guns, especially dangerous ones, have made your job protecting people easier. Is that not right?
I think from every
Director Cheatle, this is simple English. More guns, do they make your job more complicated or less complicated in protecting these 36 clients and visiting heads of state and heads of government that come to Washington?
I think the Secret Service needs to take into account.
I didn't ask that.
That they're in.
I'm sorry. I asked a simple question, which deserves a simple answer. The ubiquity of guns, dangerous weapons in America, like AR-15s, has that made your job, that is to say the mission of the Secret Service, easier or more difficult?
I think the threat environment for protecting our Secret Service protectees is always difficult, and that's dynamic, and it's always evolving.
We stipulate it's always difficult. Again, this is a simple one. Does the ubiquity of guns make your job easier or more difficult today?
I understand the Second Amendment rights of individuals.
I didn't ask that question. I'm not questioning the Second Amendment. I'm asking a simple analysis, Director Cheatle. And I can tell you, you're not making my job easier in terms of assessing your qualification for continuing on as director. Please answer the question. You're the head of the Secret Service.
She's not.
You're speaking on behalf of 8,000 members who put their lives on the line. We just had a failure by your own admission. Do guns make your job easier or harder?
I think the job of the Secret Service is difficult on every day, and we need to make sure that we are mitigating all threats, whether that be
That
weapons,
isn't my question.
personnel.
That is not my question. And now I think you're evading the answer, which is not a hard one.
She definitely is.
I am sorry that you feel that way, sir.
How else could I feel, Director Cheatle, when you're clearly avoiding a direct answer to a very simple declarative question? We almost lost a presidential candidate the other day. A 20-year-old had access to his father's AR-15 and got on top of a roof within 500 yards or feet of the podium. And I'm asking you, did the availability of that AR-15, which is replicated all across America, make your job harder or easier? And you're not willing to answer that question? And you think and you wonder why we might have a lack of confidence in your continued ability to direct this agency?
I understand your question, and that's the environment.
Well, if you understand my question, why not answer it?
Because it's the environment that the Secret Service works in every day.
That doesn't tell me anything. That's the environment we work in. I had an attack on my office a year ago. I know a little bit about violence too. He came to kill me. When he couldn't, he beat one of my staffers 8 times with a baseball bat on the head. We live with the threat of violence. But a simple answer from the director of the Secret Service would be helpful. And I'm sorry you've chosen to evade it.
That was Rep. Jerry Conley losing his mind after Kimberly, refuses to respond to the anti-Second Amendment bait. At least Democrats and Republicans have found common ground in being furious at Cheatle's refusal to answer questions, Colin Rugg wrote. Seriously, man. And somebody commented, what is abundantly clear is Cheatle was told to stonewall. I mean, that looked like what she was instructed to do from what I'm observing right now. Benny Johnson just posted Democrat congressman forces Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle to watch cell footage from Trump rally goers exposing her humiliating failure to secure a perimeter around President Trump, allowing the assassin to climb the rooftop in broad daylight. We need answers.
Chair recognizes Mr. Krishnamurti from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, for bringing us together this morning. One question I get asked a lot from my constituents is, what can Congress actually do to stop this from happening again? And I'd like to share a graphic from a very recent study conducted by Professor Robert Pape, a world-renowned expert in combating political violence. The graphic shows that 74% of Americans want this Congress to come together to denounce political violence of all stripes, and you can tell it's across party lines. I commend the chair and ranking member for putting out the statement the other day condemning political violence, and to further this effort, I'd like to ask all my colleagues to join Dr. Brad Wenstrup and me in introducing a resolution that we think can secure unanimous House passage in deploring and condemning political violence, and we will be circulating that resolution shortly. Director Cheatle, as you know, the shooter began shooting at 6:11 p.m. Eastern on July 13th. NBC reported that at 5:51 p.m., 20 minutes before the shooting began, the state police informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
And according to NBC, just 2 minutes later, at 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service notified its snipers about the gunman. The rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
No.
Let me show you some video footage by rally goers. If you could play the video on the screen up here. This was taken 2 minutes before the shooting started. If you could turn up the volume.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
On the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof again.
Up here. Ma'am, that doesn't look like suspicious behavior. That looks like threatening behavior to me. And the rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
I can tell you, as I stated earlier, sir, that the moment that the
Yes or no?
Surrounding the president were aware of an actual threat.
That's a threat right there. The guy's on the roof and everybody's yelling at him.
Yes.
And directing the officer's attention to him. The rally was not paused at that point, correct?
We are currently still combing through communications and when communications were passed.
Well, I can point you to this communication. It's 2 minutes before the shots started ringing out. Director Cheatle, yes or no? Was there ever a moment where the Secret Service actually considered pausing the rally?
The Secret Service would have paused the rally had they known or been
So the
told
answer is
there
no.
was an actual threat.
The answer is no. Correct?
I can speak to you in generalities.
No, I don't want generalities.
I don't
I
know
want
all of the
specifics.
communications.
The answer is no. You did not consider pausing the rally, correct?
The people that are in charge of protecting the president on that day would never bring the former president.
Gosh, she's literally snitching on herself right now. This right here, this whole interaction right here, to me, just screams cover up. We watching the video with our own two eyes. Why does she keep trying to talk to us in politic language? Like, you know what I mean? Political language. She's being asked very basic questions. You don't see that as a threat? That's a problem.
Out if there was a threat that had been identified.
Well, they did, because we've now identified 3 points in the 20 minutes before the shooting that the threat emerged. Let me point you to something else, which is the building that the shooter was perched on, seen here. This building is called the AGR building. I'm sure that you're familiar with it. It's no more than 150 yards from the stage where Donald Trump stood, yet the security perimeter was drawn such that the AGR building was placed outside of it. Director Cheatle, according to the Washington Post, the AR-15 styled rifle used in the shooting had a range of 400 to 600 yards, and therefore the AGR building was clearly within rifle range of the stage, correct?
Yes.
NBC News has reported that in the days before the rally, the Secret Service had identified the building as a vulnerability that required special attention, correct?
That's reporting from NBC?
Yes.
So I am still looking into an active investigation.
I know, but it's been 9 days. I mean, you should know that, right? And yet, despite the fact that the AGR building was in rifle range of the stage and it was flagged as a vulnerability, this building was put outside of the Secret Service's security perimeter. And I respectfully submit the Secret Service must expand its security perimeter to account for the kinds of weapons that can be used outside the perimeter to endanger the protectees inside the perimeter, ma'am. Let me turn your attention to some conspiracy theories that have been circulating and ask you to comment on them. First, you have not found evidence that the incident was a staged shooting, right?
Correct.
And you haven't found evidence that this was a result of a conspiracy of high-ranking government officials, correct?
Correct.
And you have not found evidence that this incident was in fact directed or perpetrated by a foreign state or entity, right?
And that's the last question, but I'll let the director answer that, please.
Not at this time.
And just when you think that things can't progress from this to worse, first of all, we're going to get into when Kimberly Cheatle confirmed at the hearing today that Democratic Representative Sheila Jackson was heavily involved in the oversight of the Secret Service. And then 6 days later, she's confirmed to be unalive. Is that a coincidence? But before we get into that, Rep. Khanna, I believe that's how you say, watch how he uses what happened after. Just watch it. Let me not even try to explain it.
You know, do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned. He resigned. And Stuart Knight was not a Democratic appointee or a Republican appointee. Look, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just don't think this is partisan. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign. That's what Stuart Knight did. He was a Republican appointee, and he took responsibility. And I think you need to reflect. This is not a question of you. It's a question of the American people. You cannot go leading a Secret Service agency when there is an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. I would say that about anyone who is running. And so I guess my question to you is, what's the difference between your position and what Stuart Knight did?
What I will tell you, sir, is that I am dedicated to finding the answers to what happened. And like every Secret Service agent, we don't shirk from our responsibilities. I will remain on and be responsible to the agency, to this committee, to the former president, and to the American public.
But is there a reason you wouldn't just do what Stuart Knight did after the Reagan assassination attempt?
I believe that I provided an answer.
There's nothing more that you have to say? I mean, do you really believe at this moment, given how divided the country is and the questions asked, that your service in this role is the best for the nation? I mean, I'm not saying you can't do public service again, you can't do something else again. Do you really genuinely in your heart believe that you being in this role is what's right for America at this moment?
I'll go ahead and answer that for no. I don't think so. And we're going to review some of these comments real quick before we get up out of here. It's so much more material from this hearing, but we probably going to end up just, breaking down some of more of the loose ends and other videos as well as it pertains to this. It says, Democrats are amazing thespians. They pretend they care about what happened to President Trump, but we know the truth. Even Democrats want Cheatle to resign. Today is one day where I know Democrats, Republicans, and anybody in the middle, we all like, yeah, we all agree. And this is the one day I will say all the parties, we united. What else? Let me see. I'm just going through the comments. It says, wow, even a Democrat thinks she should resign. Pure and utter incompetence. She has no honor. She only has devotion to the regime. We shouldn't even give her the option to resign. She needs to be fired, right? In my opinion, and investigated for her part in this. This was not an accident or intelligence failure. This is absolutely a planned situation because Dems, what other route do they have?